Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the memorable career of the legendary Springbok, the 1998 Tri-Nations champion, Pieter Rossouw. Pieter, welcome to Front Row Rugby.
It's good to be on the show, Peter.
Pieter, before we begin the conversation, we're going to take a look at the trivia question for this week. In 1993, the Springboks beat Australia in Sydney in the first test. Who scored 2 tries that night for the Boks? Now, just before we go there and ask Pieter the first question in the interview, if you know the answer to the trivia question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Pieter knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Pieter, before we talk about your career, I would like to know, what is the story behind your famous nickname, Slaptjips?
Well, that's a nickname that started at Newlands, and I had a lot of different nicknames, from Piston to Sparkplug to Geelslang, and obviously Slaptjips was one of them. Basically, Newlands faithful gave it to me, and I think it's more the way I ran, sort of lanky. Basically never know which way my body was going to go. So, yeah, basically got it from Newlands.
That's a great story. So, Pieter, you know what? When I was preparing for this interview, I was trying to find out when you actually made your debut for Western Province. And we're going back a while now, and, I was a little boy, not trying to make you feel old, at the time. And I think it was 1995 that I saw you for the first time, as I recall. And it was a Super 10 game in those days, and I think it was against North Harbour. And you were playing at fullback. Can you explain to us how it came that you switched from fullback to wing?
Well, basically, my first game for Western Province was 1994 in the Lion Cup for Western Province against Lions. And I was, as you know, went and studied at Stellenbosch, and I was a fullback there. And I got selected at Province as a fullback. So I played 94, 95, 96 for Western Province at fullback. And basically in 97, Harry Viljoen came to Western Province. So our back three in 94, 95, 96 was me, Chester Williams, and Justin Swart. We were the back three. They were the 2 wingers, and I was a fullback. And 97, Harry Viljoen came, and he brought Dick Meir with him and James Small. So, and then he moved Justin to fullback. So suddenly I was out of the team. Chester Williams was the left wing, James Small fullback, and Justin Swart the fullback. And I think in the 6th or 7th game of the season, Chester Williams tore his anterior ligaments, knee ligaments, and he came to me and asked me if I can play wing. So I said to him, listen, I can play anywhere, or I try anyway. So he picked me at wing, and I was sort of school I played fly-off, and then afterwards I played fullback. So I was sort of a footballer playing at wing. I wasn't like the traditional winger, like the wingers were those days. So I basically only stood there on the fence, and but mainly I played everywhere on the field. So that suited me in a certain way, because the weak points I had at fullback were sort of taken away at wing. Because at fullback you sort of have to be a steady, conservative, last line of defense type of player. And, I wasn't really that type of player. I was more adventurous. So at the winger, I could get away with that. So that's how I got to wing. And that's also why I played left wing, because Jesse was left wing at that stage. And I played the whole year of 97 left wing for Province. And basically I got selected for South Africa not long after I started playing wing. So I haven't played a lot in that position where I got selected for the South Africa, but I played a lot of provincial games before I got selected for South Africa, which obviously helped me a lot, ironing out, most of my flaws and mistakes I made in the early days. A lot of people probably thought that it went through all of my career like that, but yeah, so I had a good time, and that's how I got there at wing.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit the like button? So tell me, Pieter, how were you feeling ahead of your debut against the British and Irish Lions?
Yeah, I was very nervous and obviously very excited. I wasn't picked on the first test, so I still remember when I came back from holiday. I was away for a week or something like that, and my way back, I got a call from Carel, was the head coach at that stage, and he phoned me, and he said, "Listen, I got selected for the Springboks." So I thought it was a friend of mine pulling a joke on me. And first of all, I didn't want to believe it was him, and then later on, I obviously realized it was true. So, and the second test was in Durban. So that was my first test. So I flew up and joined the team. And obviously that was now the famous test where we lost the series. We scored 3 tries, and they scored 5 penalties and a drop goal. And I beat us 18-15, and we kicked 0 out of 6 in that day. So, but obviously I was very nervous but very excited. And it was an unbelievable experience, something you probably can't explain to anybody else who hasn't gone through it. So, the second game we played in England, in Johannesburg at Ellis Park, which I was man of the match. And I really had a very good game, which was really nice. And at least we beaten in that game. So my win ratio against the British Lions were 50%, but South Africa obviously lost 2-1.
And you also scored your first try in that final test against the British and Irish Lions. How did that feel?
Yes, that was an unbelievable feeling. It was I think something that probably every kid dreams of. So I really enjoyed it, and for me, it was very important that our team played really well. So, I think, a lot of wingers, really enjoy scoring tries. For me, it was nice scoring tries, but I had a different mindset regarding rugby, and, I almost got a bigger kick out of making a try for somebody else than actually scoring a try. But as a winger, you had to score tries, otherwise you're not a good winger. So, but it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it.
And then after the Tri-Nations, Carel was replaced by Nick Mallet, and we went on that run of 17 tests in a row. But before we talk about that, tell me, in your opinion and your experience, what are the differences between Carel and Nick as coaches?
Carel was obviously I think a visionary coach, and he really wanted to make the box play a bit different and think different about the game. So, I think maybe the biggest things that counted against Carel, that we all know he was an unbelievable player and captain when he played, and also think different of the game than many players. When he got picked as a coach for the Springboks, he hasn't coached one day in his life. So I think, so I think the fact that he hasn't coached made it difficult for the guys to understand what he was trying to achieve. I think the longer he was involved, the longer we played, the better we got. And obviously that's spilled over to Nick Mallet. Nick Mallet was obviously, very abrasive, hard and direct and clear in what he was trying to achieve. Very emotional, passionate. Both of them good coaches. I really enjoyed playing under Nick Mallet, and he liked me as a player as well. So probably that's one of the reasons I liked playing against under him. But both of them really good, and I think Nick just went on what Carel started, and he implemented for the next 2-3 years when he was the coach, and we really played really good rugby. We were really good as a team as well, and enjoyed playing under him.
On that 1997 end-of-year tour, you wrote your name in Springbok Rugby history forever, scoring 4 tries against France in 52-10 annihilation in Paris. Talk to me about that occasion.
Yeah, well, that is sort of a bit of basically still a dream that I still wake up sometimes and really can't believe it was me, but that was an unbelievable experience. We played at Parc des Princes, and the first game we played in France was we played 2 tests there, and obviously the first game we went ahead, also quite far, but at the end of that test, the French came back, and I think we won by 2, 3, or 4 points. It was really close. So everybody was looking forward to the second test, which we played at Parc des Princes, which was basically the soccer stadium which they used at that stage. And that was also the last test they were going to play there. So a bit of a nostalgic or farewell test for the French and in Parc des Princes. But we really played well that day, and we were up for the game, and we played an unbelievable brand of rugby, which the French really enjoyed. Afterwards, when we were finished, all the French people were standing and giving us an ovation, clapping hands, for the game we've played. I think it was, if that was in South Africa, the stadium would have been empty if the Boks lose by that margin. So, but unbelievable experience, and I scored one of 2 good tries in that match, but 1 of 2 I basically just put the ball down, where the teammates actually did everything. So we played really well as a team, and we played a really almost dynamic type of rugby, and offload and quick ruck and quick rugby, which made it really difficult at that stage for the opposition who wasn't really used to that.
I noticed just before we started our conversation, behind you there's a framed Springbok jersey, and it looks like it's a framed France jersey. Is that from that match?
Yes. That is the jersey, and that's my jersey. I framed it, and it's quite a nice memory. That is a nice memory, but I've got a lot of memories, not just on Springbok level, but provincial level. Not just matches, but also the coaching staff and the players you played with. That memories will always stay with you.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of memories, let's go to 1998, Tri-Nations. We're away from home against the All Blacks in Wellington. A memorable move. I think, as I recorded, it was yours to Henry Honeyball, who then sort of inverted himself past to you, and you took the gap going past Josh Kronfeld, and we took the lead and we won that test match. Talk to me about how that move came about and the execution of it.
Well, basically, there's been said a lot about that move. We haven't won in New Zealand for a while, so we felt that we had the chance because we had a very good 97. We had a good team. We were confident that we can do it. And in that week, Henry Honeyball basically suggested that we do this move. At that stage, the Sharks were always doing this runaround moves with, the ball goes flat to Henry, and he runs like an inverted line, and dummies the 9 coming around, and he basically give it to Gary Tymon. It's the same type of running line. And they were doing it a lot at the Sharks, and they were playing on an advantage line, and they were putting all the teams under pressure with that. So we basically want to do more or less the same thing, but we don't want to give it to our 8th man, but they suggested, but they must give it to me. So we can basically maybe a little bit wider and, different angle, different personnel. And so that was basically decided at breakfast table. I think we've practiced it once at captain's run. And so the idea is, the fly run, because that stage, the flanker defense on a 10, and the 10 defense on the next channel. So the idea was for Henry to run towards the scrum to Josh Crossfield to fix him, and 9 running around was, the idea is that he pulls the flyer with him, which was Andrew Mertens at that stage. So basically, the timing needs to be perfect. So the flyer can't adjust when he sees the 9 doesn't get the ball. So he ran that inverted line dummies, the 9, Mertens follows yours, and then he sort of give a little short, like a pass to me, and I just ran through like the biggest hole I think I've ran through in any of my international careers, and it went dead silent in the stadium. So at first I thought, is there a knock on, or is there a forward pass, or is there something that was wrong because it was dead silent? And obviously scored under the poles was a great experience, because I knew at that stage when I scored that try, I think there wasn't a lot of time left. And then I think we were 6-3, and then I scored and went 13-3, and I knew they're gonna struggle to get past us because they were playing into strong winds. So for me, the try was really special, but it was more special for me the fact that I knew that the try is going to make us win that test. And I don't know if you know that, but that test was the 50th test between South Africa and New Zealand, which was even more memorable. And at that stage, I think New Zealand won 25 tests. We've won 23. I think 2 were a draw. And I think the points difference over 50 tests at that stage was 6 points. So there's a lot of history and tradition, and and obviously it was the first time, I think, almost 20 years that we've beaten New Zealand in New Zealand, which was also a nice experience.
It was certainly a memorable time, and as you will know, in those days we were still playing afternoon kickoffs in New Zealand. So those of us at home were waking up at about 4 in the morning to watch it, and it was certainly worth waking up. As I recall, I think I was still in high school at the time. Nevertheless, Pieter, let's move on to the end of year tour. We won 3 of the 4 test matches, and even though we were still winning, the performances seemed to not be as clinical. And I've had a couple of former Springboks on the show talking about some of the reasons why. And I've heard things like Bobby Skenstad being forced into the team by Alan Solomons. I've heard that the guys were maybe a little bit tired. I'd like to hear what your experience was like.
I think it was a combination of a few things. We had a midweek team as well on tour, and the midweek team were having good performances. They were beating, but they didn't have great opposition, but they were beating the teams like 17-0, 18-0. And I think Nick, sort of started to put pressure on us to perform well, because they were playing well and telling us we're not playing well. But obviously it was a bit different for them and us because their position wasn't great. I think obviously Bobby were putting a lot of pressure on getting into the team because he was sort of coming on as an impact in 98 and really playing well. And I think the pressure was starting to mount that he must start for the team. The problem that we had is that we had Andre Venter at 7, and I think Rassie at 6, and Gary Tuigman at 8. So we had sort of a really settled back, loose trio, and our locks were Mark Andrews, and I think it was Krainer Otto. And we played our first test against. So a lot of things happened. We've played against Wales in South Africa. We've beaten them 96-13. So in the end of the year, we played them first. We played them at Wembley. And they fired their coach, in Graham Henry, who coached the Blues for 3 or 4 years in Super Rugby. And he became the coach. And I think we weren't really prepared for that game because they played totally different than they used to play. And they sort of put us under massive pressure. Eventually, we won that game. But I think because we weren't that well prepared, we didn't play that well, and they really played well. So that sort of set the tone for the tour, where we didn't really perform as we wanted to perform. But I think it was because we weren't prepared really well, and expected to get so much opposition from Wales. So in that specific test, Mark Andrews' 50th test, played his 50th test. And half time, he got taken off the field. And Andre Venter moved to lock and Bobby came on. So that basically shows you what the mindset of the coaches were. They wanted to give Bobby more playing time, but they didn't really know who they should drop. Do they should drop Venter or do they should drop Mark Andrews? So in that specific game, he took off Mark Andrews and put Andre Venter at lock and brought on Bobby. Okay, so the second game, so now they had really pressure on playing him. Okay, so the second game they picked Bobby, but before they picked, everybody sort of started to feel this thing is starting to happen, and because now the team has played together for quite a while now, and everybody thought it was going to be Mark Andrews who's going to be dropped, and then Nick went and he dropped Andre Venter, who was sort of the hard man of the team, and working hard, driving, doing all the dirty work. So that I think created a lot of uncertainty in the team. That the fact that was Andre Venter was the last guy, everybody thought Nick will drop, and then he dropped him, and that sort of created uncertainty in the team. And I think that always also spilled over to the team. So and I think that made it we eventually wasn't, and the fact that the second team the whole time the coach tells you the second team players are putting pressure on, so the guys started to play, I think, more with fear than motivation and confidence. And obviously we had some good games, and Bobby did actually really well some of the games he came on, but he was probably more suited for an eighth man job than a seven, because he wasn't really in the rucks a lot of the times. So we lost a bit of that in terms of cleaning rucks and stuff like that. So and then obviously the last game we actually were ahead. Bobby gave me an unbelievable pass. We were 7-0 ahead, and then so things just didn't go our way, and we eventually lost 11-7, and I think it was 11-7, and then we couldn't break the record. We just evened the record. So but it was still unbelievable tours, and you can't always win, and there's always a lot of dynamics in the team, and the coach is always under pressure, where to get the best combination, and how to improve a team, because you don't always have to lose to drop players as a coach, because I'm also a coach now. Sometimes other players just play better, or the combination is better, so you can actually improve the team while winning as well, and sometimes you have to. So I think that's what Nick tried, unfortunately we lost that, but it was an unbelievable run from 17 tests. I was fortunate, I played in all 17 of them. I think we were 5 players that've done that, so that is a nice memory for me, and something I really enjoy, always cherish.
Absolutely. All right, Pieter, on to 1999 Rugby World Cup. I remember hearing a radio interview with Joost at the time, because he was the captain for that tournament. And he said that the guys didn't really feel like they were at a World Cup while they were in the pool stages in Scotland. But then after that, we moved to Paris for the quarterfinal against England. That was the Jannie de Beer show, as we now know it and remember it. You scored a try in that match as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
You're correct in saying that regarding because we stayed in Scotland. So in Scotland we played, I think we played Scotland obviously at Murrayfield. I think we played Spain and Uruguay. I think that was our 3 games. It changed a bit now. So we didn't really got the feeling of the World Cup, because it was in 5 countries. when we got to Paris, when we played against England in the quarterfinals, obviously there we got the experience or feeling that, now we're in the World Cup, and that game was very important because we knew that's going to be a tough game. We didn't have a good 99 run because we had a bit of injuries, and so nobody was actually giving us a chance against England, because England at that stage, I think, was one or two in the Six Nations. They really played well, and we were really well prepared in terms of what we want to do and what England was going to do, and obviously, Yanni. Well, that is, I think, probably still a record, and probably will be a record for a long time. And we had a very good game plan, and we defended really well. And and Yanni is unbelievable gifted in terms of a lot of things. But he could drop, and he can kick the ball, and obviously he kicked that 5 drops. A lot of people don't even know it, but all 5 of that drops was in the second half. And obviously at the end, he kicked the cross kick, which I got a fortunate bounce, and that was and that game was obviously played at Stade de France, which was built just after, or which replaced Parc des Princes as a. And I think Parc des Princes, had about 45,000 people that can watch. I think Stade de France is over 80,000. It was an unbelievable experience, and one of my best memories.
Pieter, on to 2000, Harry Viljoen replaced Nick Mallett, and then you actually, I think after 2001, you didn't play for the Springboks again until 2003. What actually happened there?
Well, Harry got picked as their coach, and I think he really enjoyed, bigger wingers. So he basically, I think Dean Hall had a very good Super Rugby, and he picked him. I went back to province, and focused on the Currie Cup and Super Rugby, and I had a really good year or 2, and then he picked me again in the end of 2001, after having a very good Super Rugby and Currie Cup Rugby, and then I was involved, and then not long after that, basically I was basically involved with the team. I got a contract and everything, and at the end of that year, Eric called me again and said, "Listen, but they're not going to renew my contract." So I decided that I had to make a decision. So I got basically approached by somebody to go and play overseas. So that was the end of 2001, and then 2002 I had an unbelievable Super Rugby again, and then I think February, March, Harry resigned. But then I already made my decision to go overseas. Then Rudolf Stahli got appointed, and he phoned me. When he heard I'm going overseas, he phoned me and said, "Listen, but we had to have a meeting." Because he told me then he'll give me a contract immediately. And I said, "But I already gave my word to the people overseas. I can't back out of that." So basically that's what happened. So Harry, I think, favored the bigger guys, but I just kept on working, and I was fortunate to go back to a team where we really played well, Super Rugby with the Stormers, and really played well in the Currie Cup. 2000 we won the Currie Cup. So I've actually tried to put a lot of pressure on him, and eventually he picked me again. So but Harry was my coach at 1997 of province, where I had really good memories. And at the Currie Cup, we were unbelievable in the Currie Cup in 97. And then we started with the Stormers 98. We didn't really go well, and then he resigned. So I've played under me before that, probably 15 months. And yeah, and he thought maybe different in super, test rugby. And but eventually he picked me. And I really enjoyed the way he thought about the game, because he thought different to a lot of coaches I've played under, and he was really driven to be successful on the rugby field. So it was a good experience. All my coaches I've played under, brought something different to the table, and I've enjoyed all of them.
Pieter, just before we finish up, is there a particularly funny moment from your time with the Springboks that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, there's a few. Well, I remember the one where when we played in Johannesburg or Ellis Park. We normally stayed in a hotel there close, in Johannesburg somewhere. So when you stay in a hotel, it's a very, the program is very full, it's very organized, and so you normally train twice a day. So you get down and organize a bus and everything. So basically every time, say the bus leave 10 o'clock, then everybody like 9:30, quarter to 9, or quarter to 10, get together in the foyer waiting for the bus. Or they sit around there, just make sure that they're on time, because it's very important to make sure you're on time. And so that was before one practice where we were waiting for the bus. So everybody was sitting there in the foyer and standing around, just I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes before the bus arrived. So we were sort of getting up and getting ready. And so I was standing there, and this one guy came to me, and he asked me if I can take a photo. And so as a Springbok, you get asked the whole time, a signature, photo, it sort of becomes part of your life. So this guy asked me, can I take a photo? I said, no problem. I went and stood next to him. So he said, no. Can I take a photo of him and his wife and his kids? But now he asked this in front of everybody. So all the guys were falling off their chairs because it was so funny for them. So I eventually took the photo, and then I asked him where he's from. So he said, no, he's from Australia. And, rugby, I think Aussie rule fan doesn't even know rugby. I don't think at that stage he didn't know who the Springboks were. So, so that was quite a funny and humbling experience for me.
All right. Pieter, before we finish, let's take a look at the trivia question again quickly. In 1993, the Springboks beat Australia in Sydney in the first test. Who scored 2 tries that night for the Boks? Do you know the answer, Pieter?
I don't have a clue.
It's actually quite an obvious one. When I tell you, you're going to know. It was James Small.
Should have guessed. The chances the winger probably have done it now.
Quite right. Pieter, thank you very much for your time today. I want to say it was an absolute pleasure having you on Front Row Rugby. So many fascinating stories from the past, and I hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Thanks, Peter. Really enjoyed being part of the show.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, I had former Springbok centre Christian Stewart on the show. You can go and have a look at that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, I'll have another Tri-Nations winner and a World Cup winner as well, Albert van den Berg. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, why not tackle the like button? You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content from Front Row Rugby. See you next time.